Hi, everyone, and welcome to Field Tuning. Field Tuning is a monthly divination container held within and on the Broom Radio by me, Hoda Intrepid Bodies. I'm transmitting this month's container live from Istanbul. Brr, 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 brr. And I'm joined by tenders, gardeners, and members in the pot here today. And I just want to thank y'all for being here live. If you are listening asynchronously on the Room Radio podcast, I also want to thank you. And if you found this link from Buy Me a Coffee, I doubly thank you for being a supporter to this endeavor known as the Broom. Um, I have pulled cards already. Before I started to record this recording for three different groups that correlate and correspond to um, basically each group is an energetic forecast for the month of September. It is not linearly correlated to the dates of September. It's mostly just like containers that I'm like holding in my energetic field and intuitively decided to use this three group system um, to create a forecast for the month. So I haven't flipped the cards over. All the cards are turned over out of sight, definitely on my mind, not off my mind. Um, and I would like to kind of just get into it. But before I do, I welcome each of you all who are listening asynchronously and who are here live to feel into the container if you do feel so obliged. Kind of find your space in the container. Feel free to have a seat. Feel free to stay standing. Feel free to take this time to feel into which group may be calling to you. And as you feel into which group may be calling to you, just know that field tuning is a divinatory offering and a forecast similar to the weather report. And so everything that I offer here is being offered outside of everyone's fields. For those who are listening on the podcast, I definitely welcome you to join the Broom. It's where we have more contained conversations about the groups, about the cards, where we're able to, I feel, reflect on what the divination has for us or is, communicating to us. And I will take this time now to start with the divination for group one. It's interesting because I feel like as soon as I started to put my hands over the cards, like my heart started palpitating. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what messages are here for group one. So the first card that I pulled for group one is the Saraswati card. Oh, I'm also working with the Goddess Tarot. So there are going to be some goddesses across different pantheons that may come up here. So for group one, the first card is the Saraswati card representing wisdom. Saraswati is the goddess of music and sound in the Hindu pantheon, the Vedic pantheon. She's sitting upon a lotus with what looks like a lute, or actually, no, that's not a lute. It's like some mystical instrument with a bird. I'll take a picture and send it. So we have Saraswati here. Yep. The next card that we have for group one is the Princess of Pentacles. The Princess of Pentacles. And the last card. Oh, group one. Ooh. Hold on, I'm sensing a theme here. Okay, for group two, group one, I'm sorry. That was really confusing. For group one, the last card that came out is the Prince of Pentacles. So we have Saraswati, the Princess of Pentacles, and the Prince of Pentacles. And so I'll take this time to share photos of these cards in the chat for those who are here live. I hope the flash did not blow out the photos. Nice. Interesting energies, group one. So instantly when I kind of look at these pentacles, I think of earthly resources. Pentacles in this deck for me represent this ability to not stay grounded, but this ability to see resources and the sense of groundedness as I don't want to say necessarily a blessing, but this ability to see the value, the innate value of how not only like material things come to be, but I'll go out on a limb and say like the value of like earth itself. Pentacles definitely in this deck represent material resources, material abundance. We also have this interplay of the prince and the princess coming after Saraswati. So um, to me, what comes up in relation to this trifecta is yeah, again relates to like the wisdom in earth, the principle of earth, the principle of material, the principle of um manifestations bearing fruit. um and so it's interesting because for group one, I'm sort of kind of also getting a sense of this like internal energy. This kind of goes inward in a way that precipitates realizations or wisdom regarding the value of like earthly sort of matters, right? Um, and so it's interesting because I guess, yeah, another thing that's coming up is how the pentacles and earth itself relate to the quote unquote matrix that we're in, the matrix that our sense of self and our spirit self is taking up space in. But the princess and the prince, I'm going to read a little bit about what each of these cards represents so that we can more deeply understand the interplay between the two. Because I feel like they also in traditional tarot represent the page, right? So it's about like, to me, the page or the prince and princess represents um, a sort of recognition of a particular spiritual principle, but at its more like beginning stages. Whereas like the king and the queen represents acting on these principles, or in this case, acting upon the wisdom that's gained. And so it kind of contributes to the sense that I get for group one about, yeah, this sort of month precipitating more internal recognition for you, and also the recognition having to do with like, yeah, like maybe like fresh gnosis or wisdom making it to you about regarding earthly matters. But before I get further into it, I'm going to read what the Princess of Pentacles is about and then get into what the Prince is about according to the booklet. So the Princess of Pentacles. The Princess of Pentacles reads, seductive and sweetly perfumed. The Princess of Pentacles offers all of life's bounties. To possess them, though, desire is not enough. Constructive action must be taken. And so that short statement for me really aligns in terms of how I feel the princess and prince represent the stages of recognizing something to be true. And so for group one, you might be kind of coming into recognition that Um, yeah, I like the specificity here that it says desire is not enough. Constructive action must be taken. And it reminds me of something that um, it's weird. It's like a little, it's so obscure. It's this thing that I say whenever to myself, whenever I am ready to bring something into manifestation, or when I've thought about something enough and I realize that, like, okay, I probably need to make a move on this. And it's like the thing that I say is like, I'm ready to put my footwork. I want my footwork to match my mouth work. Like I want myself. I've noticed that about myself. Like when I'm ready to actualize something, it's like quite literally for me, it's about bringing down the energy from like talking about it, communicating about it, ideating about it, and then like bringing it down to my feet, which I feel relates to an actualization process. And so this is really poignant for me. um, I'm also going to read the meaning before I move on to the prince. But yeah, I felt like I wanted to share that with you all. Um, so, the meaning of the Princess of Pentacles represents the ability to create opportunities for growth and beauty. A woman or man who personifies these forces, the ability to work hard and create prosperity. Yes, 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 yes. Really timely. So, I'm going to now read the Prince of Pentacles just to kind of move on to the next card for group one. So again, the prince to me, I kind of like lumped them together, but of course there's probably nuance that I'm about to tease out as I read this. So for group one, the Prince of Pentacles represents a pragmatic and loyal, or wait, someone who is pragmatic and loyal. The Prince of Pentacles is a bringer of messages and ideas. He is able to show where businesses can expand and when it is time to harvest. The meaning of this card is business ideas, deals, mail or messages that bring opportunity for expansion and money on the way. This is awesome. I'm going to read that again. This card means business ideas, deals, mail or messages that bring opportunities for expansion and money on the way. I love this. So group one, there seems to be this interplay in this relationship between the princess and the prince. Princess, I think, representing this sort of um, inner recognition, this like yin spark that's been lit. Like, okay, this is what I can do for myself. And I feel like the prince represents the pragmatic application of this recognition. I love that for group one, it says that quite literally the possibility in September of like mail, um, a message, a job opportunity, money, business deals finding you um, is possibly due for you this month. Because I feel like it relates to, yeah, I feel like there's an interplay between the two that I'm really picking up on. I mean, it feels like this balancing of like yin and yang within one's own vessel, within one's own path, regarding the suit of pentacles, right? Again, this recognition of like how do I, you know, I being yourself, I being me in this case, how do I bring forth my dreams? How do I bring forth my visions? And yeah, it seems like for group one, there is going to be some clarity around that, which is really exciting. Um, So I don't know why I took my time with reading the Saraswati card. Let's see. I'm going to read that card now and then check the chat because it's always the most fun part for me in field tuning. All right. So, wisdom, represented by Saraswati. Sarasvati, the Hindu goddess of knowledge and culture, is the embodiment of true wisdom. Sitting upon her lotus throne, she symbolizes spiritual knowledge as well as the refinement of the arts. The meaning of this card an interest in spiritual knowledge, a teacher who will share with you what you seek, or perhaps you are that teacher. Let's go. Wisdom gained in a graceful manner. Ashe. I'll read that one more time. This card means an interest in spiritual knowledge, a teacher who will share with you what you seek, or perhaps you are that teacher. Wisdom gained in a graceful manner. So I'm glad I took my time with that card. Also, welcome to everyone who joined after I started the recording. Great to see you all here, and I appreciate you guys, taking time out of your day/evening to be here. So as I kind of like tie up the message for group one, I do want to kind of spend some time on this Saraswati card because I do feel like it highlights the reality of like how wisdom um, sort of settles into one's field/body of recognition or like body of gnosis. Um, I feel like it relates to what I was picking up on for group one, relating like more internal cultivation, a more internal recognition, but also not without its external sort of ebb and flow. And so I feel like the Saraswati card here um, relates to, again, this wisdom around the principle of creation, the principle of creating on earth, the principle of what it, I would even go so far as to say like the wisdom of what it means to create something in the body, because like there are ways to like create outcomes in like spiritual ways. There are ways to create outcomes in the unseen, and I don't want to like discount that. But it does feel like group one is really about like how to marry this cultivation in the unseen with like material outcome. And I think again that's highlighted by this emphasis of the pentacles for group one, and it's also further emphasized with the Saraswati card, which I think for me, Saraswati is a goddess who represents this like savvy around, this like savviness around the earth realm in and of itself. And so if it feels aligned for you to connect to Saraswati, or you feel like you have lineage connections to Saraswati, I would say do that. Or connect to goddesses, principles, deities, spirits that relate to wisdom, that relate to, or even ancestors, right? That relate to like how to navigate. I'm speaking more esoterically now, right? Like how to navigate the earthly realm with wisdom, with grace, not only for yourself and other past timelines, but also other people, right? Oh, there is something else coming in for me as well around group one is like kind of respecting the earth plane um, as a place that you share with other aspects of spirit. It also feels really prominent for group one. So yeah, that just came to me like zapped my throat chakra. So I felt like I had to say that. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna pause right there, check the chat. And I also welcome anyone who feels connected to group one to either unmute or share in the chat what might be coming up for y'all. Super sweet. Nobu says, I appreciate you holding space at 5:30 a.m. No problem. I literally like was telling my family that I had work. And then one of my nephews asked like what kind of work I do. I'm like, babes, I literally sit down, pull cards, smoke a little sun, talk to my friends and transmit. And he was like, he was the one who said, he was like, we gotta talk business, hubba. Hubba means like aunts. And so it's early, but I do feel very fortunate. No, I don't. I'm manifesting it. Um, no, Every time I look at the chat, I can't help but laugh. Okay, let me scroll up a little bit more. Nadia says the principle of creating on earth and or create something for something in the body. Thanks for reflecting, dude. Nadia also says feels like a simplification and actualization that I'm super called to embody. Group one feeling good to me. Ashe. Let's go. Nobu's dropping. Should I say this on the recording? No, I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to screenshot it because I think I'm going there later today. Sharing codes. Y'all should join the brew. I'm just saying, just saying. Um, okay, so just to move us along, the oracle card for group one is the Beyond the Mind card. Um, oh yeah, maybe I might not need the flash because the sun is coming out. Yep, I'm gonna use the flash anyway. So we have the Beyond the Mind card. I'm not going to read this whole card, but this card, instantly what I hear when I look at it is like moving beyond your logical mind to manifest outcomes for yourself. So this is about like getting creative. This is about being a magician for your own self. I feel like a lot of the times people are like virtue signaling about how dope of like magicians they are, but I'm just like, are you like making magic happen though? Are you like making magic happen though? It's like what's coming up for me right now. And I would ask people that in good faith, obviously. It's not a G check, but I feel like, yeah, I'm not even going to read this card. The Beyond the Mind card right now to me signalizes going beyond your traditional sense of logos, your traditional sense of rationale to make these moves happen for yourself. And sometimes you have to do that, you know? I guess what's coming up for me is times in my life where I'm like, I've applied to jobs and I've applied to like certain things and tried to sort of make outcomes happen for myself, checked off all my boxes, got all the degrees, made my resume look beautiful, and things still haven't worked out for me. And I've had to work quite a lot to like not internalize that resistance and understand that maybe in some way like I'm called to personally like take a more creative and more like wandering path regarding not only just like success, but to me that is success, right? Birthing things in the material. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's success. So I'm going to call it success. It's like traditional modes of success haven't worked for me. And so the Beyond the Mind card here, I think, represents times in our lives where maybe that's been the case. And maybe this month might bring you an influx of recognizing, like, oh, those are the timelines where I was called to do that. Kind of take a more creative route, go color outside the lines, as some people say. But it's never too late either, you know? It's literally a new day here in Istanbul. And I'm just like, every day is a new day. So you can always like not only just start over, but it's always like, I think, a ripe opportunity. Anytime is a right opportunity to believe in yourself. Anytime is a right opportunity to bet on yourself. So yeah. Ashe Nobu, me too. Me too. You bring the Mary, I'll bring the mineral water. Period. And maybe we can light one up for Rumi and Konya. Inshallah. Deadass. I'm actually coming back to Istanbul in November, I think, or the end of November, December. So we will see. All right, before I move on to yeah, I won't say too much. I'll share in the Europe chat what like my master plan is for November because that's my birthday month. So we'll divulge later. Let's see. Am I good to move on to group two? Okay, before I pull the cards for group two, I'm wondering if anybody's feeling group two before I pull the cards over. No pressure. Oh, Guy says me. Sweet. Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for being transparent. Nobu says not me. Thank you for sharing and thank you for being transparent. And I'm gonna make sure I get the order of these cards right before I flip them over. Ooh, beautiful cards for group two. Ooh, I just felt like a warm vibe in my stomach as I turned these cards over. Let me share this photo. So the cards we have for group two, the first one is the Seven of Pentacles. Against Pentacles representing Earth. The next card that we have is the Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups. And then the last card is the Six of Swords. Six of Swords. So at first glance, group two, the energy signature is very different. Jess says sounds, a guy says sounds abundant. Ashe. Very different signature from group one. I feel like for group one, September is very earthy, very internal focused, very almost like perched on in one's nest, looking for opportunities actively, understanding that like creating opportunities for yourself is not thirsty. But for group two, very different signature. And so the Seven of Pentacles is a card that represents literally a woman who has cultivated her internal garden, who has probably done some of the work that group one has done, and is literally seeing the fruits of her labor take shape. I so Seven of Pentacles also represents this aspect of Lakshmi in the garden, sort of tilling the soil, taking on a more humble sort of embodiment to sort of participate in this process, this larger process of creation, right? Um, and oh my God, I'm getting chills. Um, yeah, I kind of want to expand a little bit more on this idea of like taking on a more humble form to get shit done. I'm also like really piqued by the color of clothes that she's wearing in this card. In the Seven of Pentacles, it represents this more, again, quote unquote, humble version of Lakshmi, who is the goddess of abundance, who is the goddess of fortune, who is the goddess of inner and outer richness. And she's wearing a green, light green sort of shawl that covers part of her head, entire top part of her body, and then this orange skirt um, is it's just really like poignant for me. So I'm gonna take a moment to drink that in. Um, but again, she's like overlooking the seeds that she's planted, and I do get the sense for group two. September is kind of it might be like the beginning part of like September, right? And so it might not be the whole month, is what I'm sensing. But for group two, I'm seeing this feeling of like review coming up, and review sort of relating to the the harvest that you've cultivated, um, the harvest that relates to, yeah, like the seeds. I feel like I'm speaking allegorically, right? Like the seeds that have been sown in one's garden. And what does that mean practically? Is like, okay, I feel like this aspect of Lakshmi is representing like just reviewing, looking out at one's, I guess, like the year is what's coming through. But a lot of people might not look at the year in that way either. So I want to like hold space for the possibility that it's not that linear. But maybe like you're reviewing where you've put your energy and where you've exerted um, maybe effort in terms of creating emotional fulfillment for yourself. That's what this Nine of Cups card, not to pivot so quickly, that's what the Nine of Cups is and usually represents in this deck, is like this sense of emotional fulfillment. And so I also get this sense of satisfaction uh, relating to group two. And so as you kind of take stock of all the different places that your energy has been sort of, how do I want to say this? Because I feel like there's also like some negative connotation around like sharing your energy in a particular way that I'm sort of sensing. And I'm like, it actually feels really generative for group two, where it's like, no, like you've put in the work, you've laid down the sown the seeds, so to speak, for particular timelines for yourself that relate to emotional fulfillment. And the interplay of the Seven of Pentacles and Nine of Cups gives me a sense of like satisfaction, like almost looking over yourself as your like older self and looking down at your current self and being like, that's my baby. That's my baby. I'm so proud of that person, or I'm so proud of that one. Um, so that's really sweet to me. I feel like this interplay also of Pentacles, which represents earth, and then the Nine of Cups, which represents water, shows this like, I don't know, for me, what's coming up is like uh, wet clay that's like being molded is like the image that's being elicited for me right now. And it feels like this wet clay like represents like how you've molded yourself, how you've molded the material in a way to create particular outcomes that have a lot to do with, and yeah, again, like internal fulfillment, but also with not without recognizing that it takes work to feel emotionally fulfilled. Um, and sometimes that work does look like changing the way that we understand what it means to share energy, changing how we understand or allowing transformation to find us, I should say, regarding the act of sharing one's energy on this material realm, and how it can sometimes breed emotional fulfillment in ways you would never expect. And so, um, as that kind of part of the transmission sort of comes to a close, and before I read the cards, I do just kind of want to intuitively scry how the Six of Swords connects. And the swords here represents the air, the intellect, mental patterns, both positive, both negative, generative, non-generative, however you want to look at it. These are just swords represent the mind and the way that logos also is part of, I think, co-creating in the material realm. And the Six of Swords is represented by um, a woman in what looks like pharaonic Egypt with six of her swords in a boat walk sailing away from something. Um, and the Six of Swords card usually does quite literally represent releasing mental patterns, actively also choosing to release particular mental patterns. Like this is not a passive card by any sense, but it's also not like a physically aggressive card, right? If this was like the Six of Staves, which is more like fiery, I think this would be like being called to move away from something, but it's the Six of Swords, right? And the Six of Swords to me represents this like choice, this conscientious choice that I'm going to, whoever the I is here, I'm going to leave these old mental patterns and this way of thinking and this perception, let's say more specifically. I'm going to leave it behind. Um, and as I leave it behind, I might feel called to look back. I might feel called to grieve these particular perceptive realities that I occupied, but I'm leaving them behind because my pursuit now is emotional fulfillment. It's a very different signature, very different vibe to move into from, yeah, the work of just, I should say, like group two, pat yourself on the back, or give yourself more credit because the work that it takes to shift perceptual realities in that way is the kind of work that other people don't see, but only really shows an outcome. And I think there's something about group two that's that's something about that truth, at least from my perspective, that truth has like crystallized for you. Like it's really in your field now. And I feel like that sort of being more solid can be incredibly like empowering, something that you've realized that like the thing that you've realized about consciously moving away from particular perceptive realities is now something that you recognize. Like in other words, you've realized that your thoughts do create your reality. And so now you're like, I want to have better thoughts. I want to have better perceptions about the world. I want to have better perceptions about myself. Um, and all of this is motivated again by this Nine of Cups. So let's read what these cards are about. Let's read what these cards are about. The chat is popping. Sometimes I wish I could be a fly on the wall in my own containers. I know there's some energy workers and spiritual practitioners in this chat. I wonder if y'all ever feel the same way or if I'm just being egregious right now. Okay, I'm gonna also read the Seven of Pentacles while I mourn not being able to like physically be more than one person. So let's see. We have the Seven of Pentacles. Okay, I'm gonna read what the book says just to be official. The Seven of Pentacles. The woman tends to a tree, weeding around its roots and pruning its bows. She is waiting for its fruit, symbolized by the Seven Pentacles, to ripen. Ooh, the meaning of this card: expectations of a reward, waiting for a harvest, such as a creative project, money, or a personal relationship to occur. I really like that the booklet describes that the woman is also waiting for the fruit. So I wonder if there's a sense of like seeing one's harvest starting to fruit, but you know, when like fruit is not quite right, it's got to stay on the tree for a little bit longer. Um, she is waiting for its roots, a fruit. I'm sorry. She is waiting for its fruit, symbolized by Seven Pentacles, to ripen. I'm going to read it one more time. The woman tends to a tree, weeding around its roots and pruning its boughs. She's waiting for its fruit, symbolized by the Seven Pentacles, to ripen. So yeah, I guess that's what's coming through for me right now is that for group two, some of the fruit is still on the vine, which means there might be time in terms of the material reality catching up to your internal realizations. And I also feel called to say that in this context, I think that that's okay. But please disagree. Super interesting. Yeah, especially the word, when the meaning comes through and it says expectation of reward, waiting for a harvest such as a creative project, money, or personal relationship. I do get this sense of like reorienting to reorienting on how group two, the month of September, might reveal opportunities for you to how do I want to say this? Yeah, this work of also part of the transmission where I was sharing like understanding how to invest and reinvest your energy. Um, to me that's an internal process. And so this waiting, I feel like feels like it relates to the time delay, yeah, which I already said. Relates to like the time delay, but also in terms of like how long it takes to integrate that. Like how long it takes to integrate the reality of being like, oh, I want to invest my energy in this way, whether it's my mental energy, emotional energy, my spiritual energy, all the other energies that we have. as humans, like, I think that doing that gracefully is also a process. And so, yeah, that felt important to channel. Um, ooh, really interesting. I'm gonna read this. So, guy says, okay, because what's coming up for me was a video I came across, and the person speaking saying something about a fruit that eats itself is rotten, and a tree that bears fruit had to do with how a tree that bears fruit has to do with how you're impacting the people around you, if that makes sense. I definitely feel what you're putting down. I'm curious if you want to say more. I see you're typing, so I'm gonna hold a little bit more space. I'm curious if anyone else has like syntheses for group two. Hmm. Nice, poignant stuff coming through. Nobu says, like, you can't just become self obsessed. What? You can't? No. Is self obsession really the pinnacle of emotional fulfillment? Is kind of what comes up, not particularly to you, Nobu, but like just in response to that. Gaia also says, so basically, in an expansion of the metaphor she shared earlier, so basically, who's eating your fruit, you or others? Are you feeding the community or are you being greedy? Ooh, ooh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, like how are you engaging in the interplay of energy exchange, right? And I think that's what was coming up for me too about this like revitalization, maybe in the month of September for group two or anyone else who's listening, right? About the reality of like exchanging and investing. I wouldn't even say sometimes like the exchange is not instant. So let me not even say energy exchange, but like the reality of investing your energy. And I would imagine that energy investment is just like any other investment. Like it takes quite a long, look, it takes some time for that investment to fructate or like kind of recapitulate a new cycle where the dividends and the return on your investment make it back to you. But it also really reminds me of raising children. Like you raise them kids for 18 years and not everybody here is a parent. So, but the reality is like you raise those kids for 18 years or longer and like the return on your investment, quote unquote, sometimes doesn't happen for some people until they're on their deathbed shielding, but it's true. And so, yeah, I think that there's this download flowing through me to share with group too about how our ideas of emotional fulfillment and happiness and joy and like this idea of our highest timeline. Like, does your highest timeline only have you in it or does it have other people in it? Mhm. And with those other people who are in your timeline, your highest timeline, are you part of taking care of them? Like, are you part of pouring back into your community? Is that part of your highest timeline? Because a highest timeline is not just one timeline from my perspective, right? Metaphysically speaking. Sometimes the highest timeline is this thick band of time that's like woven together that has so many different people contributing to that time space being real. Not to get too metaphysical, but I feel like that's important to say because it's like I don't think that this is about like personally G checking yourself, right? Group two, this is about like an expanded awareness about, yeah, this idea of one's highest timeline, this idea of emotional fulfillment, this idea of joy, and opportunities to reshape that. And also like prune the things that are in your garden, your mental garden, your internal garden that maybe are a little outdated around, yeah, one's highest timeline. There's a lot of reflection in the chat, so I feel a call to read out what's being said. Nadia says, has me feel a little into when contained energy can kind of eat you up too, perhaps. Ooh, Ooh, I really love how you describe that. Contain energy can kind of eat you up, you perhaps. I would love, yeah. If you want to say more on that, I appreciate it. If not, yeah, even Gaia says, can you say more on this, please? I'm intrigued. Me too. Nobu shares a post slash transmission that says, what is an elder if they're not creating and holding space for youngers to become elders? How can one be valuable if they're not making others more valuable? Ooh, ooh, as it comes through for me as I read that. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So aligned with, I feel that's really aligned with the energy of like investments, reinvestments, return on investment, and the time delay between all those different points. I think relate to like, yeah, emotional maturity and in some cases eldership. Nobu also says first, clarifying myself. Next, usually protecting those who can't self-protect. Youngers, Ashe. I can't tell y'all how many times I've come to that conclusion in my life as well. Like this sense of like taking care of myself so that I can take care of other people, not just other people, but specifically those who can't protect themselves. And I get a little verklempt thinking about that. I'm going to read what Nadia said before read the funny thing. Nadia says, I'm feeling in particular of like creative energy that is being held back slash in, like when something becomes putrid or stagnant, when it doesn't flow to where it might be directed, having trouble finding the words at this moment. I definitely feel I'm picking up what you're putting down, Nadia. Um, it makes me think of this idea in the collective, and I say that it's an idea in the collective because I read it on Teapot, and it relates to like Venus being poisonous, Venus as a placement, Venus as a planetary ally, planetary ancestor, and then Venus as, again, yeah, like the atmosphere of Venus is like very, oops, I just dropped my lemonade, um, can be very poisonous in some lineages. And it's like part of what protects Venus. And like sometimes, in my opinion, it's what protects Venusian individuals or people who are kind of like moving into more Venusian chapters of their lives. But also, just like all poison, it's not taken in doses and it's kind of obsessed over. It can quite literally kill the thing that it's supporting, right? Um, so yeah, that felt important to share in this transmission. Now I'm going to read the thing that made me laugh. Nobu says, Hoda, outdated. Me, you're rotten. I think that also relates to the Venusian as poisonous thing. Um, Nadia goes on to say, I think I thought of this primarily from you speaking on rotten fruit. Not sure how it's aligning super clearly with what's coming through for group 2 or not, but felt called to share, definitely. I'm glad you did, Nadia. Definitely. Anna also says, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it goes on to say, like not picking fruit when it's ripe. When it's ripe. I don't know why I added the ED. Nobu also shares a link to a daily prayer container. And one of the containers, T395, was called Even a Flower Must Function. I agree. Mm. I have to read this because I feel like there's a transmission in there somewhere. Nobu also says, LOL, walked past the lemon tree with my mom, and she picked a lemon before it was ripe because she was like, quote, if you wait, someone else will get it. And I was like, There's an emoji you just have to be here to see, really. So, group two, let me get into the Nine of Cups. I'm going to read the Six of Swords, and hopefully, reading the booklet will tie some of this message together. I'm going to stand up because my legs are numb. We have the Nine of Cups. Oh, God, it feels so good to stand up. Fuck. All right. So, the Nine of Cups for group two. The Nine of Cups, finally, satisfaction. A rainbow leads this person to a banquet table set with 9 cups. Worth waiting for, this feast will nurture many hearts and bodies. What? I'm going to read this again. Finally, satisfaction. A rainbow leads the woman to a banquet table set with 9 cups. Worth waiting for, this feast will nurture many hearts and bodies. The meaning of this card: satisfaction, contentment. Some consider this card the wish card, meaning a wish will be granted if it appears in a spread. Shay, group two. Shay. I'm really kind of honing into this idea that the feast or one's harvest will nurture many hearts and many bodies, really relating to the prior part of this transmission. I think that we were all kind of like picking up on this interplay between expanding one's vision, also the interplay of like kind of pruning one's garden from like maybe outdated or rotten ideas of contentment and satisfaction. Again, emotional fulfillment. Guy says, okay, gotta gather up my wishes. Yes. I also feel like, especially if we're speaking to like principles, right? If group one is going to understand the principle of like creation of earth and creation and earth and like matrix affairs, I feel like group two, the theme is really like around dreaming bigger and including more people in your dreams, in your prayers, in your outlook, seeing who you can protect, who you can look out for as a way to also not only just like expand one's harvest, right? Like I don't want to kind of just only be outcome driven, but I also do feel like it's like getting more clearer on what the principle of a prayer and a wish is in and of itself, right? Understanding that it's like this secret conversation with the spirits, the gods, the deities, the ancestors that guide you. And it's like if everybody's on the mic and listening in that way, yeah, I would just be very mindful about what I pray for. I would be very mindful and very demure when I'm like eliciting and petitioning prayers because I feel like I have to say there's people who like call down fire and like call up the realms, down the realms, go left and right directionally all through. And I'm not dragging anyone here, but I'm like I've been in spaces like that where people are like, "Okay, now meditate." And I'm like, "I can't because y'all's energy is so first of all, it's so big and it's only worried about yourself." So I physically and sometimes energetically feel like I can't collaborate because people are so self-focused. And so I feel like for group two, it's like the month of September. Do you remember? September. It's like kind of inviting you to kind of, yeah, widen the pot, include more people, understand that your energy is vast enough to not only feed you, but feed others. And there's no shame in that, you know? So, yeah, and I feel like saying it again. There's no shame in that. Ashe. And it says, I feel like I'm getting a sort of recycling and what I think emotional fulfillments. And my lower leg is tingling now. Ashe. Yes, come through earth, wind, and fire. Always give your fears away. All right, I'm gonna move us along to the Six of Swords, and I promise you, Group Three, I have not forgotten about you. I have not. I appreciate y'all for sticking around for this transmission. Curious also if more folks are feeling called to Group Two. I know it's a pretty big transmission, so yeah, if you feel like you're in Group One or Three and this aligns for you, feel free to let me know. If you're listening to this on YouTube, like, comment, share, subscribe. I feel like it's a good time to let y'all know that I would appreciate that. All right, so I'm going to read the Six of Swords. For some reason, I keep thinking that the Six of Swords is the Four of Swords, but it's not. It's a six. So it says, the Six of Swords. The woman is traveling in a boat to a better place. She has gathered six swords to take with her. These symbolize the new clarity and wisdom she possesses, which will be used in her new life, and I'll even say in her or their new timeline. The meaning of this card: new knowledge that helps one to move beyond current limitations, the lessening of difficulties, and travel. One more time, I'll read it. New knowledge that helps one move beyond current limitations, the lessening of difficulties, and travel. Ashe. Mm. Nova says, I feel like six, Saturn, and four, Jupiter, in born day numbers are kind of inaccurately polarized in current time. Huh. You want to say more about that? Nobu goes on to say, Saturn is generally associated now with limitation. In Nordic and Kemetic lore, it represented abundance and regeneration, respectively. Wow. That's a real, yeah, that's turning a lot on its head for me right now. And I definitely agree. Gaia says, of course I said I won't be here. Literally, it says 6:44 a.m. as I'm reading this message from Gaia. Sorry, that just clicked for me. Speaking of 6 and 4, Gaia also says, of course I said I won't be here long. And the group I felt called to has the longest transmission. Ashe. Thanks for being here. Hmm. So Nobu goes on to say Jupiter is generally associated now with abundance and expansiveness. And in Nordic and Kemetic lore, it represented force and wisdom and manifestation, respectively. Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's changing things for me. I really appreciate these more like I don't do I want to say the word ancient? No, time honored delineations around like Jupiter and Saturn. It definitely feels like it's like clarifying stuff for me as well. Okay, I'm gonna turn over the Oracle card for group two. Let's see what's here. Let's see what's here. Journey to wholeness. I'm gonna take a photo here. This card feels very Nine of Cups coded to me, but I will read parts of what this card means in the divination, and then I'll move on to group three. Gaia says, okay, come through Lemuria. Shay. Lemuria is like, no problem, boo. We'll do. The Journey to Wholeness card. It reads self acceptance, wholeness, unconditional love, soul fragments returning, accepting others as they are, staying energetically present, accepting all parts of self, healing internal dis-ease. The divinatory meaning of this card. This card is about loving yourself and others from a sense of wholeness, exactly as you are right now. It is only from this space that healing can take place. We may find ourselves in relationships or scenarios where we can see great potential. We may have concepts of others that are not really who they are due to subconscious projections or ideals. We could have this is funny. We could have the idea that we will feel better about ourselves when we achieve a certain goal or status, that success will somehow make everything better. Unfortunately, this takes us out of the present and makes our love somewhat conditional. To be a healer in this respect, according to this booklet, transcend the perspective that being in the front of your needs. What? Hold on, y'all. I'm struggling to read right now. To be a healer, transcend the perspective that the being in front of you needs to be fixed. Hold the vision that they are perfect as they are, and from this place they can heal themselves through the transformative power of acceptance. Acknowledge the full spectrum of a picture and bring any fractured parts back to the present moment. In this place, we are whole and thus have the power to step into the brightest version of ourselves. So, group two, I'd say, yeah, there's no way for me to like wrap up what we just kind of walked through as far as transmissions go. But I do pray and I hope that what was received is generative. And of course, there's going to be space for us to check in throughout the month. So I want to kind of hold space, a little bit more space for group two, since the transmission was very long. So yes, thank you all for receiving. Yeah, very hard to summarize for group two. Very live and in the moments. So yeah, I appreciate y'all for sticking around for that transmission. I told myself I was not going to take reversals today, so yeah. I just pulled the cards over for group three. Oh, the gifts in this chat make it so worth it. Oh my gosh. Um, love it here. Okay. For group three, I'm going to take a photo of the cards and read through them. Let me pull the oracle card too. Hey, hey. Let's go. Group three. Aw. Peace, Gaia. Thanks for being here. Group three, we in the house. We in the house. So for group three, the first card that comes up is the Wawala card representing oppression. I think this card came up last month as well. So we have the Wawala card representing oppression. The next the next card is the Ace of Pentacles, which has I'm not gonna lie, in my heart space right now, the Ace of Pentacles has a lot of gravity. Lots of gravity in my field right now. Again, the Pentacles representing to Earth. Ooh. Then the last card for group 3 is the Contemplation card, represented by Chang'o, goddess Chang'o. Ooh. And then the Oracle card is the Freedom card, represented by a blue, like turquoise-ish, mystical, blue, like turquoise, emerald greenish, white dragonfly. So and then there's like quite a bit of dragonfly syncs in the chat for Nobu and Nadia. Yes, yes. So dope, y'all. Oh my gosh. Yay. Yes, Nadia says Chang'o is the goddess of the moon. So I get this for group 3. Instantly, the word that I hear to describe the pace of September is like progressive. Like there's a sense of the energy progressing, not only throughout the month, but I almost feel like it's describing this larger crescendo that's taken place for members who align with group 3, that's taken place over the year of 2024. Um, so I'm just gonna kind of like scry and like divine on this before I read the deck, right? Or the booklet. The Wawala card here, to me, it instantly like brings up this sense of like reflecting on oppression, not only just oppression, but moments where one's like, especially creative energy has felt sort of like suppressed or halted for group 3. And I feel like the oppression card represents the recognition of that in a very kind of similar to group 1, in a very like internal sort of way. um September in and of itself being sort of the end of summer for especially like folks in the West, also feels very apt for this recognition to sort of make it to those who relate to the messages here in group 3. um and so I don't get the sense that there's this yeah, I don't get the sense that oppression is going to be the theme for group 3. I do get the sense of like recognizing where one's creative energy has been suppressed, wherever your creative energy is, right? I think a lot of people, when you say like creative energy, they're like, oh, sacral. But I'm even getting the sense of like how a lot of people create from their hearts, how a lot of people's like creative wellspring is their throat chakra. Some people have incredibly defined and refined third eye chakras. And so I do get this sense of like recognizing, or just sort of maybe it might even come up in a meditation or a body scan where you realize, like, hold on, this energy center that is usually like radiant and blooming is not quite there. And so it could be something as simple as that. And I do get the sense that that's kind of what the outlook of September will be for those who like relate to this message. And so, yeah, the Wawala card also has it's a story of like tragedy. It also relates to what I would, and I could be wrong about this, but there is this sense of like recognizing that this like suppression and oppression is maybe like ancestral. Um, yeah, group 3, I feel like this is also internal, at least in terms of like the oppression card, realizing that like, yeah, like some of the ways that you felt blocked or maybe like stifled have to do with like ancestral patterns. And also like a lot of our like abundance in this realm, in this particular matrix, is tied up with, what I've learned at least, is like is tied up with like resolving ancestral karma in a way. I love it because as I say that, like the entire city just came to life. um and it's like, I don't want to be too simple about this, but there's also like the reality that like resolving ancestral karma can be incredibly like disorienting when your desire, right? Or like when your focus is like this idea of having like a stable sense of self, right? However, if we learn a little bit from what group one was sort of guided to take on for this month of September, we know that like this realm also has like back doors in a way, especially if you're like creative, especially if you're willing to get creative. And I would even say willing to get in the mud. There's this message for group three that's like, even if you see or are revealed or you end up noticing these places in your field or your energy body that relate to like ancestral karma, my question is like, does that make you sad, and why? Like, we all have ancestral karma, you know? We all have baggage. We all have places that we do not shine as brightly. I'm sorry, I just looked down and something in the fucking chat said selling coke, and I'm dead right now. And I'm kind of glad I looked at that because it definitely got me off my soapbox. But I'm kind of like offering these questions as or also like ways for group three to like sort of start emoliating that like uh downswing of vibes when you realize that something's like, yeah, that it's like I also want to say like sometimes I'll just like put it in a personal sort of story. There's times where I'm like reaching roadblocks in my life and realizing that it's like those roadblocks are like precipitated by like my vaster self, because there's something that I'm not seeing and there's something that I'm not quite getting. And usually the thing for me at least that I'm not quite seeing and not quite getting has to do with like these storylines that are like deeply woven into my ancestral genetics, that are deeply woven into like the mythology of like my family tree. And I get the sense that there for group three might be some shame, or you might even just see it in other people, that there's like shame around them when they see that about themselves, or when they realize that, hey, I'm blocked and it's not circumstances outside of me that are blocking me. This is like an internal block. And I do feel like that's what I'm getting from this wall card, that it's like oppression and prolonged suffering can sometimes be the result of, at least for me, it's been the result of me not seeing just another way out, or like another way through from particular emotional patterns, or like the way that I'm set up to sort of, not a bumblebee landing on my right ear, the way that I'm sort of guided to live my life, right? That was really distracting. But I do get the sense that this sort of turn of energy in the Ace of Pentacles is something that I'm being guided to like pay attention to. But I also feel like I can't unless I let those who relate to group three know that transmutation is real. There are ways that you can support yourself in not only just transmuting and moving through particular tough energetic cycles, but that sometimes the toughness of the cycles that we're going through might have to do with our dedication to suffering, right? And a dedication to suffering and playing small, for some reason, I'm seeing those two things in my mind's eye and being called to say that they're completely different things. So, what I'm not talking about is playing small. What I am talking about is this almost like loyalty to suffering, this loyalty to feeling burnt out, this loyalty to feeling spent, this loyalty to maybe handling life the way that your mom did, this loyalty to maybe being as detached as your dad is. And it's like, why? Right? Why be part of your own suffering? Why be at the hands of like your own oppression, right? And so I feel like I want to say that because this oppression that you might see, or this suppression that you might notice in your field, again, it could come up as simple as like in a body scan or meditation, might not relate to anyone else. And when you realize maybe it's a little bit of you and you, there's like also this recognition of like not feeling ashamed about that. Um, absolutely. New codes, all of that. What? We have a field tuning playlist, period. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I have to share the link to this. in the show notes. Nadia says, I've recently heard it phrased as like inherited memory information, i.e., inherited DNA, as well as beliefs and perceptions, etc. Definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely talking about epigenetics. I'm definitely talking about epigenetics here. Um, Nobu also says ancestors require new music, ashe. They do, so they can dance a little better with the times or create their own time. Nobu also says this is what that red avian hand sign has been meaning to me, not letting corrupt ancestral memory overwrite the heart space. Ashe. 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 So the Ace of Pentacles here, not to kind of like scoot us along, but I feel like the Ace of Pentacles represents that, like seeing yourself in the sea of ancestral memory, being able to see how your life here, your body here in this particular realm, um, in this particular timeline is, I don't want to say the corny thing, right? Which is like you're an answered prayer for all your ancestors. But you very well may be the thing that can also ripen a lot of the karma and see through a lot of those epigenetic patterns so that, yeah, the light of your ancestry, the light of your own self can actually, a leaf just landed to the left of me, can actually shine through. Um, I'm going to read more on the Ace of Pentacles and also the Contemplation card before I get deeper into this transmission. Just to kind of like anchor myself because I feel like I'm just straight channeling right now. Um, so let me read the Ace of Pentacles. Ace of Pentacles. Ace of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles. A lush tree bears a fantastic fruit. Y'all heard that? Let me read that again. A lush tree bears a fantastic fruit, a single golden pinnacle. It is decorated with symbols of the lotus and the five-pointed star. Not me getting verklempt. Hold on. Oh my God. Wow, group 3. What a change of vibes. Okay, the meaning of this card, the purest evocation of prosperity. Oh, oh my God, I'm getting emotional. The purest evocation of prosperity, fertility, and generosity. The beginning of a new phase of life that promises all of these things. All of these things being prosperity, fertility, and generosity. Ugh. Group 3, I'm so glad we pivoted. I'm so glad we pivoted. Oh, this month for group 3. Oh, group 3. I'm getting the sense that you have also worked on all of the principles that group 1 and group 2 are slated to refine and sift through this month. So again, this principle of prayer, wish fulfillment, and making more kind of refined prayers, the principle of creating on this material realm, how to sometimes like get in the mud to make outcomes not only favorable but more fruitful for other people. I'm getting like mastery for group 3, no cap, especially with this Ace of Pentacles. And I'm being called to pull a clarifier. One clarifier, spirit 4. Yeah, let's go. Let's fucking go. Oops, sorry. I just got lit. I just got motherfucking lit. I just got lit. Okay. We have the Ten of Staves that came out as a clarifier with Gaia, the world card at the end, or at the bottom of the deck, I should say. I'm gonna share a photo of this and compose myself. Whew, sheesh. Whew. The pivot, the pivot, the pivot, the pivot, the pivot. I also feel like the card, the what I was transmitting on the Wawala card relates to like probably the last like karmic hurdle for those who relate to group 3 that they've had to like overcome in relation to, yeah, getting to this next chapter of the Ace of Pentacles, the Ten of Staves, and the World card. So I'm gonna read the Ten of Staves. Oh, this is also the first fire card that's come out so far, so I'm really juiced about that. Let's go, group 3. Y'all bringing the juice, okay? I love it. Okay, the Ten of Staves. 10 staves, rich with green leaves and life radiating from the sun. They are extension of the sun's life-giving forest. I'm going to read that again. 10 staves, rich with green leaves and life. I'm thinking about the green leaf that just like passed by me. Radiate from the sun. They are extensions of the sun's life-giving force. The meaning of this card, the culmination of the creative venture begun with the One of Staves, success that becomes overwhelming with its responsibility. I get a sense that it means like the overwhelming. I'm gonna get into it. And I'm gonna read the Gaia card. That's the goddess that represents the world for those who are listening asynchronously. Let's see what Gaia has to say here. Gaia. All right. The world, Gaia. In ancient Greece, the earth was personified as Gaia, a goddess who existed before all life and created all life. The story of Gaia reminds us of the interconnection of all the world and the importance of living in harmony with her resources. What did I say, group 3? What did I say, group 3? That y'all done mastered whatever group 1 is working on? And it feels fair, right? Like, this is 1 month, a divination for 1 month only, right? So, like, let's scope and sequence this properly. But it almost feels like the crescendo of groups. I've always felt this. It feels like they've always been connected, but it feels like group 3 is like the older sister of group 1 in a generative way. Like, if in an ideal world, older and younger sisters have great relationships with each other. We're not in an ideal world all the time, but that's what it's giving right now. So anyways, let me get back to the transmission. The story of Gaia reminds us of the interconnection of all the world and the importance of living in harmony with her resources. The meaning of this card, experiencing connection with the universe, a sense of expansion and hope, an awareness of the fragile ecological balance, travel, and communication. Ashe. Let's go, group 3. Really exciting month of September for y'all, I think. I think for also what's coming up for group 3 is this interplay between like inner cultivation, external manifestation, inner cultivation, external manifestation, and the ebb and flow of these two realities sort of working in tandem with one another. I do get the sense that this month will be harmonic for group 3 as well. In a deeply like emotional way, but I also feel like there's this energy of like get prepared for your blessings in advance also with group 3, and sort of utilizing the wisdom of prior months to sort of pave your path forward as you walk forward onto it. um yeah, I feel like it's about getting ready for group 3. That's what I hear. Oh snap, oh snap, I love this. Okay, let's get into Chang O. This is the final card in the spread for group 3. Well, the second to last card, because we're still going to read the freedom card before I close out the juiciest container I've been in a while. Just kidding. That was cap. Anyways, we have contemplation, Chang'o. Chang'o, the Chinese moon goddess, was exiled to the moon because of her need to obtain divinity. With a white hare as her only companion, she spent much time alone in contemplation, alone contemplating life's mysteries. I'm going to read that again. Chang'o, the Chinese moon goddess, was exiled to the moon because of her need to obtain divinity. With a white hare as her only companion, she spent much time alone contemplating life's mysteries. The meaning of this card: the need to go within to gain knowledge, to own one's divinity, withdraw to better contemplate life. Yeah, and I'm going to just read the reversal because it feels like this is what group 3 refused to do. So I'm going to read this. What group 3 refused to do: they refused to be distracted by the world. Literally, oh my God, I didn't know that refusal was here. Y'all, literally refusal is the next word. I didn't know that. Distracted by the world, refusal to listen to intuition, no time to think or reflect. It feels like group 3 at some point in their life, some point in the path, some point in this year became very clear. Those who may relate to group 3 became very clear on what it is that they were guided towards, what the emblem of their divinity would be in this material world. And they kind of closed all doors to anything that wasn't that. And now they're like setting forth to sort of release, I would say, this like contemplative chapter and to move into a more Ace of Pentacles, Ten of Staves, the world slash Gaia chapter, which again, I think is metaphors for this this life that's emblematic of interconnectedness, this life that's emblematic of passion fulfilled, not passion on hold, but passion fulfilled. And also the material abundance that comes from those two things. Again, harmony with the world and this drive to fulfill one's passions. Like, what happens is kind of the question that's coming up for me, right? What happens when those two things are working in tandem? It feels like the Ace of Pentacles is the result of that. I do get the sense that the contemplation card is, again, just kind of similar to the oppression card, right? A look into the past, maybe, for people who relate to group 3. Like, this is where you came from. This is the work that you did. This is maybe the karma that you were like chewing on. And this is what you refused to do in the face of those, that oppression, of that suppression, of that risk to kind of be fooled into the idea that divinity can be found anywhere else outside of yourself, like your inner self with a capital S. So this is really juicy, group 3. I'm really glad we pulled that clarifier card. I'm just kind of filling into my channel and seeing if there's any other downloads to share. Mm. No, nothing else. Nothing else. I'm going to read the Freedom card from the Beyond Lemuria deck. And then, I'll hold a little bit more space for reflections before we end. The Freedom card, card number 25. I got chills still. The Freedom card, living the life you love, liberation as a shift in perspective, the many facets of freedom, inviting enjoyments and inspiration to your life, discovering what freedom means to you, overcoming limitation, unbound creative expression, choice over obligation. Mm. The divinatory meaning: bring a deeper sense of freedom to a situation. A limitation may be a state of mind. A shift of perspective can help bring a sense of lightness and choice. Also, consider what freedom looks like to you in the bigger picture of your life. If you are feeling stifled in an environment, it's up to you to make a change. Add pleasurable moments or practices that cultivate a sense of greatened freedom in your day to day life. If you are currently experiencing greater freedom, you may be feeling unsettled. Consider whether it is the kind you were looking for. If you feel ungrounded and lost, perhaps you could add some structure to your world to optimize your freedom. Oh, there is one more download coming through. No more rabbit holes is what I hear for group 3 as well, which I think relates to freedom. Ashe. No, but I'm not going to read that out loud, but I'm going to just hit that with the ashe real quick. So before I close this container, I would like to hold space for more reflections. Nadia says no more rabbit holes. Yeah, this idea of like burrowing to get away from the world um, sort of feels like it's coming to a close. Maybe not just for group 3, but maybe for many of us. In the month of September 2024, um, I'm hearing like the age old adage, like create a life that you don't want to escape from, you know? Also coming up as a theme, an egregoric theme for the month of September. Oh my God. I'm not, you know what? Let me just end this recording. Thank y'all so much for tuning into September's Field Tuning, reporting live from Istanbul. I don't know where I'm going to be next month. I might be in Ethiopia, but stay tuned. If you would like to join the Broom Radio Buy Me a Coffee, which gives you access to membership Discord space to be part of live containers like this, to also be part of the post containment of containers like this, please click the link below. And if you like the kind of work that I'm doing, I'm telling y'all, just make sure that you like, share, subscribe to this episode or this podcast, and share this episode with other people. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Have a juicy, juicy month of September. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.